Hi, I'm Sam from Team 1063. We are a team from RMIT in Melbourne, Australia, and we attempted Problem C. Uganda is one of the world's top 10 refugee host countries, sheltering approximately 1.4 million refugees as of October 31st, 2020. These refugees live in different settlements spread across 14 distinct regions of Uganda. The regions are listed here from largest refugee population to smallest. In these settlements, refugees come from 5 main countries, with 62% being from South Sudan, 29% from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, 3% from Burundi, 3% from Somalia, 1% from Rwanda, and 2% from other countries. There are several measures in place to keep the peace in these settlements, particularly between Ugandan locals and refugees, such as community policing, peace promoters, radio talk shows, and peace mediators trained by the UN Women's Project. Analysis of the provided article suggests that South Sudanese refugees in northern Uganda prefer to solve disputes using mediation. This will help us create a model as it provides some idea of dispute resolution method preference. For simplicity, we will only consider 3 dispute resolution methods: negotiation, arbitration, and mediation. As with many issues that involve people, the potential for complexity in this problem is very high. As a result, we have outlined several assumptions to help ensure simplicity of our model. These assumptions are based on the article provided, as well as lengthy discussions had between our team, which helped us find a good balance between simple assumptions and realistic assumptions. So the first one we have is that settlements have a static population. Next, each person initially has a single preference for mediation, negotiation, or arbitration. Settlements are set up by organizations with a preferred method. Disputes only occur between 2 people. When disputes occur, they are settled using only one of the 3 methods. Once a dispute between 2 parties is settled, it won't occur again between those 2 parties. When a dispute occurs between 2 parties with different resolution methods, the method that is chosen will become the preferred method for both parties. Disputes occur at a constant rate over time. Disputes occur when parties randomly mix, and disputes only occur between a relatively small percentage of the total population. Choosing a resolution method. When a dispute occurs between 2 people, if they prefer the same resolution method, then that is used. If they prefer different methods, then one is chosen based on predetermined preferences. The initial preferences of a population are based on country of origin preferences, but we also take into account the fact that settlements are generally started by an organization that has a preferred dispute resolution method. Our inferred dispute resolution technique preferences for the different countries are shown on screen. Using this information, we began creating a model. We decided to model the dispute resolution preferences over time of individual regions, as we felt our assumptions made more sense if all the people represented in our model could feasibly interact with one another. Assuming a static total population, this system can be viewed as a compartment model where people move between 3 groups: negotiation, mediation, and arbitration. In the diagram on the left, a product represents a dispute between 2 people from different groups, and the parameters A through F represent the chance that a dispute will be resolved using each method. For example, the term ANA is the proportion of negotiation versus arbitration disputes resolved by negotiation. From this diagram, we created differential equations for the rate of change of each group using the in and out terms. Once we arrived at these equations, we wrote code in MATLAB to plot the system. A problem we encountered was that the term NA suggests that all members of the negotiation group have disputes with all members of the arbitration group, resulting in unrealistically fast changes to the system. To combat this, we introduced the parameter K, which represents the percent of the total population that is having disputes, resulting in the final equations on the right.
Hi guys, my name is Declan and I'm going to run you through the simulations of our model. Preferred dispute resolution methods over time are plotted in the following slides with the initial proportions of the population that prefer each method determined using the inferred country of origin preferences and the data showing country of origin for refugees in each region. From the map on slide 1, it is clear that if we assume each settlement was set up with the same preference, then the regions with very similar country of origin distributions will behave almost identically. As a result of this, we will only be looking at the 6 large regions listed on the left with notably different country of origin distributions. The time period for the following simulations is 10 years. We also set k equals 20% and assume that all settlements were initially started by an organisation that prefers mediation, keeping the parameters constant. From these figures, the biggest influence on the dynamics of this system is the parameter values. We can see that mediation consistently becomes the preferred dispute resolution method. This is due to it being favoured in the parameters to be chosen as the method used to resolve a dispute. This could be feasibly influenced by 2 different scenarios that we will explore. Firstly, the enforcement of a different method by an authority. Secondly, the injection of a new group of refugees in a situation where the likelihood of a method being used to resolve a dispute is influenced by the preferences of the population. It is recognised that this scenario is possibly a more realistic way to model the populations. To explore these scenarios, we will consider Bidi and Naki Vale, 2 large but also very distinctly different regions. For enforcing a specific method, we will talk about Bidi and Naki Vale. For Bidi, approximately 100% of the people in this region prefer mediation, and as the parameters reflected this, we saw dominance from mediation. In the next figure, we will explore what happens if the Ugandan police decide that mediation is not effective enough at reducing conflict and begin enforcing arbitration to resolve disputes instead. In this scenario, arbitration takes over as the preferred method for dispute resolution, overtaking mediation after 3 years. For Naki Vale, another possible situation is if the UN Women's Project and similar organisations provided a significant amount of their trained mediators to the Naki Vale region. Around 60% of the population in this region prefer negotiation, so due to the similarities between negotiation and mediation, this change would likely show a rapid increase in disputes being resolved by mediation. As expected, this system has an increase in the proportion of the population that prefers to mediate when solving a dispute, with mediation being the preferred technique after approximately 5.5 years. The change would likely occur much faster if there wasn't such a large proportion of people that preferred arbitration. Now I'll talk about the addition of more refugees into a region. For Bidi, we will explore a scenario where arbitration is still in force, but there is also a large influx of refugees from Somalia that prefer negotiation, causing the parameters to show a preference for negotiation over mediation and also reducing the dominance of arbitration. We model this over a period of 20 years. After about 1.5 years, negotiation has taken over from the formerly dominant mediation, but after another 8 years, arbitration is now the preferred method. However, the most likely scenario for this region, given its population and close proximity to South Sudan, is that it will remain mediation dominated. For Naki Vale, if enough refugees from South Sudan seek refuge within this region, then the initial distribution would change to 0.45, 0.3 and 0.25 respectively. Assuming that many of these new South Sudanese refugees are trained mediators gives us the following parameters. Negotiation dominates arbitration, arbitration dominates mediation, and mediation dominates negotiation. In the figure we show the dynamics of this system over 20 years. This system is much more competitive than previous scenarios we have analysed, displaying what appears to be sinusoidal patterns with mediation taking over as the most popular method for 3 years, after which negotiation retakes the position. This simulation shows that under the right conditions, all 3 dispute resolution methods can exist in a population simultaneously. As we attempted to represent a complex situation in a simplistic model, we have left a lot of room for improvement. Some of the improvements we would implement first would be including population growth in the model and representing different types of disputes relating the severity of an incident to the likelihood a resolution method is chosen. Despite this, our model in its current state has allowed us to reach some conclusions. Our results show that the biggest factor influencing the behaviour of the system is the likelihood of one method being chosen over another. Although this is directly linked to the initial populations and which methods they prefer, we have shown it can be influenced by the other factors such as availability of mediators and the enforcement of a specific resolution method. This suggests that if refugees in a settlement have a preferred method for resolving disputes, then this method should be supported. for example, the training of mediators to promote mediation. We believe that facilitating whichever method is preferred by most of a settlement will create a better living environment for the refugees and ease the burden of local authorities by developing a system for refugees to resolve disputes internally. Thanks for taking the time to listen to our efforts for Problem C.